good day and welcome to another edition of the Healthcare Marketing Discussions from Manifest. And today we have with us Shivam Puri, who is the Managing Director of Cipla Health and a very prolific marketing person. So Shivam, we'll get right to it. Welcome on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Praful.
I've heard you speak before and I've loved your comments on healthcare marketing. So really glad to have you out here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the conversation, Praful.
Your career's been like you've moved through a lot of different categories at Unilever and salon, beauty care, and
restaurants as well.
Pureit, and then Dunkin' Donuts of all the restaurants possible, and then consumer health. So how's the journey been? How do you think it's all got you towards consumer healthcare at this point of time?
I believe I've been incredibly lucky, Praful, for the for the cluster of experiences that you just spoke about. Very different experiences because of course for example when you are speaking with a Surf Excel consumer, the tone of voice, the nature of the consumer, the nature of the message is very different versus when you are setting up the salon business. And in the salon business, which was essentially professional products business, this was a super luxurious range that we were launching. So you're talking to super premium consumers, right, at the cutting edge of pricing, to selling durables, which is water purifier, to running restaurants, which was Dunkin' Donuts. Very different nature of experiences, and I think the biggest difference here was the consumer need state and the nature of consumer that we were speaking to. For example, in case of Surf Excel, you were essentially talking to SEC AB consumers and even SEC A plus consumers, and you were trying to figure out a place for washing powder in their life. And of course, and I can talk about the Daag Achhe Hain campaign that we launched at that point in time, where we really elevated the whole experience of washing for a consumer, where we said that let the kids go out and play, because only when they go out and play will they learn values. And as they do that, if their clothes get dirty, don't worry, Surf Excel will take care of it. And only when they go out and play will they learn and they grow into great human beings.
I didn't know that was your campaign. I've always wanted to meet the person who's set up that campaign. So
it was honest. To be fair, it was a global campaign. We took an Indian flavor out of it and gave it an Indian color. And the Indian parents actually wanted kids to grow up and then be good kids to them, right? And that's where the whole values came in from. So be respectful to your granddad and grandmom, touch their feet, be kind to others, etc., etc. These are the kind of values Surf Excel spoke about. And that was my first experience of how a seemingly basic product category and a brand can be elevated into something so emotional that when we used to speak with consumers as we were running the campaign, it was amazing to hear what they experienced with the brand, the kind of emotions they had attached with the brand. So that was my first almost brush with what marketing can do to a brand. Moving on to the salon business, for example, where we were selling these cutting edge shampoos and conditioners by the name of TG to consumers, Bedhead, S Factor, etc., etc. These were the brands, and brands that get sold in the most premium of salons in the country. Very different profile of consumers, very different kind of conversations we have with them, to selling water purifiers, and again a category where essentially because it's a durable category, you need to keep changing the models very quickly to keep the excitement going. Consumers will buy you only once in 4 years. Right, so you have to be top of mind at that point in time when the purchase happens, versus a Surf Excel where they'll actually keep buying you every month. Very different experience to here at Cipla Health, where essentially we now are talking about pretty much every category that exists in consumer health, right? Be it cough and cold, be it smoking cessation, be it hair and skin of late. So it's a pretty wide spectrum. So I think lots of experiences and lots of common themes that have emerged in those experiences as well. So if you want me to talk about some of the common themes, I think one common theme is, if you are trying to sell a product to a consumer, you, and as a marketer or even as a business leader, you need to be able to get into your consumer's shoes, right? Very critical. If you cannot relate to your consumers, you cannot get into their shoes, you will fail. as a marketer. So you get into their shoes and then figure out the classiest insight that you can figure out as you get into their shoes, and this insight then translates into the job that hence the brand should do for the consumer. So what are the tensions in their life, and what is it that which tension is the brand trying to solve for, which then translates to the execution and the eventual campaign. So this has been a common theme across. I can actually talk about this in a very different very different category, like for example restaurants. I was heading Dunkin' Donuts and another Chinese chain by the name of Hong's Kitchen, which we started from ground up. Now, in case of Dunkin' Donuts, for example, the job was to figure out where does Dunkin' Donuts sit in consumers' life. Are you a restaurant which they seek for breakfast, for lunch, or for dinner? Very different state of minds for the consumer. Are you trying to whet their appetite for an amazing dessert through your donuts, or are you trying to give them an experience of drinking coffee with friends inside a Dunkin' Donuts store? And how does this experience travel to their homes when you do home delivery of Dunkin' Donut products? Again, very different one, but when you get the core insight right, you start to get the campaign right, and consumers love you for it. That has been my learning from this myriad set of experiences that I've had.
Interesting, yeah, and I've always felt that the marketing is pretty much the same. The consumer inciting has to be deep, and it won't work on any category if you don't get that right. And therefore, what's different in consumer healthcare? What's been more different? What's been more challenging? What's been easier?
Great question, Praful. I think consumer health is a very unique, marketing, and I'll tell you why it is unique. So, we were taught as marketers that changing consumer habits is one of the most difficult thesis to accomplish. So, as a brand, don't try to do too much of it, because the consumer will not change his or her habit easily, right? Consumer health is all about changing consumer habits, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to add wellness to consumers' lives, and as they adopt your products, they become healthier and happier, and do great in lives. So habit change becomes hence one of the most challenging parts of consumer health, and some of the habits are so sticky. I can talk about Nicotex, smoking cessation. It's amongst the top 3 sticky habits that a individual can have, right? Trying to quit smoking is one of the most difficult things in anyone's life. So what you're trying to do, for example, as you sell this brand Nicotex, is you're trying to change the habit, and you're trying to change one of the stickiest habits that the consumer has, which is smoking. So it is a very, very difficult thesis, and you need to have your heart in the effort, right? So because it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes money. Yeah. So I think that's the difficult part of consumer health. The good part, however, is that consumers today increasingly are trying to bring healthier narratives in their lives. They are proactively seeking health, and COVID, of course, has in a way helped there. But most consumers today are trying to figure out how can I stay healthy. And Praful, we saw that before COVID, actually, that was not the case, right? Most consumers had to be told that what you're doing is unhealthy and please adopt healthy practices. Today, consumers themselves are seeking these out, and hence there is a trigger to adopt a consumer health category. So that means it is a positive from that perspective. And secondly, the brand which does a good job there, stickiness is very high. That's the easy part here. So if you really understand your consumer, if you get the insight right, if your messaging really targets the insight and it lands with the consumer, your job is done. They will then come to you and they'll adopt the category, and they will become your great brand ambassadors as well. So there's a difficult and an easy part to this, hence, but the difficult part is really difficult.
Absolutely, building a brand, and that too, like you said, in India, a lot of the consumer healthcare categories, the penetration rates are very low of the category itself, and therefore you're often building healthy habits and not just building brand choice. So that's something which constantly I hear from different consumer healthcare marketing folks is the biggest challenge. And Nicotex, I can only imagine how hard that was. So let's come back to that before we go ahead. And smoking cessation, I know, is literally the graveyard of brands in India. So how have you kind of fought through that? You spoke about the deep insighting that is required in brands like that. If we can use Nicotex as an example.
Sure. No, thanks Praful for talking about Nicotex, one of the most passionate missions that we here in Cipla Health are on when it comes to smoking cessation. I'll take you back. So when I joined here, some 5.5, 6 odd years back, we went and met these smokers, right, who are our consumers, because that's one of the first things you need to do when you're trying to figure out what to do. It was amazing to hear them speak. So they were talking about how they were having these issues with their family because so one of the consumers said that I love my daughter, but she doesn't want to hug me because I'm always smelling of nicotine and smelling of smoke. There were these consumers who said that I'm low on confidence because I feel that if I'm away from a cigarette for more than 4-5 hours, I would desperately need it, and what if I don't get access to it, etc., etc. It was amazing, and till then I had not realized that such is the gravity of the problem. We met a few Nicotex consumers who said that you have transformed my life because I was a chain smoker. I don't smoke today thanks to Nicotex and the partnership with this brand. So clearly we said this is a life changer for our consumers. First of all, it's not any other brand. You're not selling a soap or a detergent or a shampoo here. You're selling a life-changing thesis to the consumer. Number two, we saw that the brand was struggling to grow, and the reason was that while we were getting consumers into Nicotex with the messaging, a lot of them used to leave Nicotex as well. Simply because if you look at the smoker's life, it is you have to be a smoker who is trying to quit to understand the world. So they're trying to quit. They quit for 4 days, and 5th day nicotine craving again strikes, and they go back and they smoke one, and they feel miserable, saying, oh God, I could not sustain. Their confidence levels drop. They start to smoke again. Some signs, some health issues come up, and they again quit. Again within a month they go back and pick it up. So it's a very difficult world, first of all. So we said that how do we speak with these consumers, and we said there were a couple of things that were very clearly standing out. They said that if I want to quit, I'll quit on my own, number one. Number two, quitting is not a one-day business. It takes effort and time. This is what consumers understood. So we said, okay, fine, we'll talk to them as a friend, right? And we'll hold their hand. And we said, ये एक दिन में नहीं होगा, लेकिन एक दिन जरूर होगा, because we believe you can, right? Now that was the insight that we picked up, through this consumer conversation, and we told the consumers that, and there were a flurry of creatives that we put out in the market, essentially saying it's okay if you are trying to quit and you're failing. We are together with you in this journey. So number one, we'll be friends with you. We'll take this journey together. We are not, we are not a voice of authority which is telling you that hold my hand and I'll help you quit. We said we are friends, and we said that एक दिन में नहीं होगा, but एक दिन जरूर होगा. So have the confidence that we'll eventually help you exit, this scourge. And that's how the whole journey started. We then said that let's also make the experience great. So when you are using a Nicotex, which is our smoking cessation product, the experience should be great. So when you're chewing the gum, it should not be like a punishment. It should be a nice experience. So we said let's come out with multiple flavors. We said that the formats that the consumers might choose would be different. Not everyone can chew a gum in a meeting. So we said let's come out with lozenges. We said let's come out with patches which you can stick on your arm and it's hidden, right? Which gives you 24-hour relief. So we came out with multiple formats. We came out with great tastes, and we actually checked on the taste saying, can we deliver the best taste for the consumer? And lots of these things, along with the communication which was saying we are friends with you, this together has worked wonders for us. We are more than 90 share in the market, and it's amazing to see how many brands have come and have returned. But one warning here, is that it's not easy. The brand has to really invest for a long time to win the trust of consumers, and you have to be at it because it's an expensive proposition as well. And expensive because, Praful, we are trying to communicate and convince a smoker to quit smoking. So the message cannot land in one communication. You have to do it multiple times. You have to be at it back to back, always on, for the consumer to eventually say, oh yes, I had the intention to quit, and maybe with this brand, let me try and take this journey. So it takes a lot of effort, money and time. But and to answer that, we said, what is the vision? Why does this brand need to exist? We said that the vision of this brand is to ensure we have zero smokers, right? So we said the vision of the brand is actually to not exist, right? So we want every smoker to quit smoking so that we have a smokerless world, so that we don't need to exist, because our existence is to get them off smoking. And when you actually then start to define this mission as almost as a movement, it becomes way bigger than the brand, right? And that's what we have done. And it's so exciting, Praful. You speak with consumers, lots of them, 1 crore plus consumers who have interacted with Nicotex and who have managed to walk out of the smoking as a habit, and how they talk about what the brand has done to them. That's the real joy. So it's not the money, but the social impact that the brand creates that gets us all excited on the brand.
Makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. But I loved how this insight works on the trial as well as the brand loyalty. So getting folks to use it again and again, and in the right way to help actually quit the habit. Which brings me to marketing funnels. And I've seen that in consumer health, we have some of the most complex, the longest marketing funnels that you ever see for brands that are not necessarily very highly priced. So the depth of the marketing funnel as compared to what you're paying for a brand or what you're charging for a brand is one of the craziest ratios in consumer health as anywhere else. So stick to Nicotex. How have you moved the consumer through this marketing funnel? How have you maybe built an ecosystem for smoking cessation, if you have? Would love to learn more about how you move beyond communication on this particular brand.
Super. So there, Praful, one of the things we have done is we said that you're trying to get a smoker to quit smoking, fine. But when you focus on the consumer and you ask them, saying, what are the other issues you're facing in your life, right? You realize that most of it is oral health, right? Yellow teeth, foul breath, not so great lungs. Of course, smoking causes real damage to your lungs. So we said that as a brand which is trying to be, a part of smokers' world, we should actually be able to also offer products for these issues that the consumers face. So first is the introduction of wellness range that we have under Nicotex. Yeah, so we have a mouthwash, we have a lung health product. We also have teeth whitening product in the range. Then we said that to stay connected with them, we also need a digital ecosystem around them. So we are also right now in the process of creating a digital ecosystem to say that whoever, any smoker, let's offer the entire world to them and be their mentor and be their friend in this journey. And that has been the way the consumers have adopted to these extensions that we're talking about, again, has been phenomenal. We always keep getting surprised with the kind of response we get for the consumer, just because the brand has spent the last 7-8 years talking to consumers and building that credibility and equity in their mind. So so for us, when you talk about purpose, it's not the big P of purpose but the small p of purpose. So we're not trying to change the world, we're trying to help our consumers and change their world, right? So it's the small p of purpose that we are targeting here. And it's again, their feedback to us is what tells us that we are really delivering on that purpose. And for example, we've gone to the extent of saying, so what's their experience like when they eat our product? Some of them like to eat the product when they are with friends. Some of them do not like to eat the product when they are with their friends, because they don't want friends to know that they're trying to quit, right? Some of them would love to talk about it to their friends. Some of them would not love to talk about it to their friends. So we have also been very respectful to how consumers want to interact with the product. So you, for example, also have metal cans, the bigger version of Nicotex that we have, which also we sell. We also have these simple strips, so you can throw the pack and keep the strip in your pocket, etc., etc. It's an always on journey. That's the most interesting part. Typically in any product, you sell the product, consumers come to you and then the journey begins. Here you actually have to be a part of the journey as a brand through and through, because they want you as a friend who walks the entire mile with them. So that's been our experience with Nicotex.
Makes a lot of sense. And probably even with 1 crore consumers, the penetration of the category among smokers would be less than 10%.
Yes.
So there is a long way to go, and this always on journey is something that's super interesting in consumer healthcare. Moving on to ecosystems.
But the
right?
biggest, but I must just tell you, Praful, just to complete that, is that the biggest satisfaction is we get is when we meet a consumer who says, I used to smoke, I quit 4 years back, and Nicotex was my friend then, and thank you Nicotex. Now they have nothing to do with Nicotex, right? But the equity that the brand has in their mind is phenomenal. Saying full respect for the brand, which was my friend when I needed them the most. That's our North Star as a brand.
And as a organization, because again, consumer health is, like you said earlier, has just a big impact in the lives of people. I mean, and nothing like smoking cessation.
Absolutely.
So these are very complex journeys for the consumer, and there are lots of stakeholders in the ecosystem. There are doctors, there is the chemist retailer, all of them play a role in recommendation. There's caregivers, there's other consumers that have been through the journey. How have you used that, for other brands that you've worked on here?
Sure. Great question, Praful. These are the critical stakeholders. You're talking about doctors, you're talking about consumers who are your consumers who will eventually use the product, and very, very important link is the retailers, right? Largely chemists who connect you with the consumers, and chemists have a very strong credibility and equity in consumers' mind, because they are also, almost caregivers for any consumer questions. So for us, all three are very critical. Of course, as a company, we go through doctors for Cipla Health. It's largely direct consumer conversations, but we've used and leveraged, this entire ecosystem to communicate the message to the consumer. That's the primary thesis. So, of course, most important thing is messaging on the brand. So direct conversation with consumers, and I can give you the example of Pro-Light ORS, right? Okay, we have 20 brands, so I can go to any of those. But for discussion's sake, let's pick up Pro-Light ORS. First of all, for us, the first measure is this a fantastic product for the consumer or not? Does it make a real difference to the consumer or not? ORS makes an absolute real difference. It's a great product for diarrhea and dehydration. That's the core use. But it's a great product if you're feeling weak. If there is weakness, if you're feeling tired, fantastic product. It's a great mixer for drinks, and it's you consume it. After you go partying, you consume it as a detox. Fantastic product. So great product in every sense. One of the best beverages or best drinks that I've ever had in my life. First of all, number two, a highly credible agency, WHO, gives a certification for ORS. Great for consumer, certified. So that's the core thesis, and we said yes, this is a product we want to talk about. Number one. Number two, we said that is this a medicine? No, it's a lifestyle drink. It's something that people should have whenever they are feeling down, whenever they're feeling tired, etc. etc. We said the aesthetics on the product have to be perfect. So we said we have 11 flavors. One of the only brands in the country who has 11 flavors in ORS, and probably globally as well. We need to do a better check, but from what we know, no other ORS globally has 11 flavors. And why do we have these flavors, Praful? The reason we have flavors is because when you are seeking out a beverage that you want to drink, you want to try out different tastes and flavors. You don't want the same monotonous flavor again and again and again. So we launched Nimbu Pani, we launched mixed fruit with a guava, nice tang on top, etc., etc. And consumers loved it, saying, wow, this is just like my home Nimbu Pani. Yeah, so great consumer aesthetics. So great product, great consumer aesthetics in terms of taste, and then great formats, in terms of how the product gets delivered. So the core job is done. Then we said, let's now talk to consumers. So what do we tell the consumers? We said that if it is a lifestyle product, it is an Achha Thanda. So, in our communication, we are simply saying this is Achha Thanda. Drink Prolite ORS, Achha Thanda. Simple. Yeah. We also are using this platform because we also, as healthcare marketers, have the responsibility to ensure that consumers are aware. So we've started telling consumers, saying, look for WHO logo on your ORS product. We've also started telling consumers that, don't go with products which just have ORS written but are not actually ORS. So the right way to assess a product is turn the pack, see the label, read the composition and see the WHO logo on top. And it has worked phenomenal for us, right? If you look at the product, and I can't give you the actual numbers, but I can tell you that in the last 3 years, the brand has grown 5 times on top line. Wow. It just tells you that consumers are liking what we are doing. Yeah. And just imagine, Praful, it's so heartwarming when you know that the more you sell, the more healthy the community becomes. For a marketer, it just gives me goosebumps to talk about it, saying the more I sell, the healthier the people around me become. So just imagine. So of course, then we try to, as marketers, when we sit together and when I sit with my marketing team, we say that this whole world is colliding to make us successful because we are doing the right things. And when these things translate, our consumers are becoming healthier and healthier every day. So that's what Prolite ORS is for us. Again, it's a mission, it's a movement where we are saying, don't go for sugary drinks. And I don't want to name brands, we know who I'm talking about. Don't go after sugary drinks. This is the perfect product. It has the right electrolytes for you. It has very little sugar. And by the way, Praful, for those who are conscious of their looks, it only has 11 calories. Right? Just imagine, only 11 calories in a product which gives you perfect hydration. So it's just phenomenal, and I believe all marketers in the consumer health community should feel blessed to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. No, I love it. And what I really liked about this is you've kept it simple. Achha Thanda is just a very simple way of looking at the category. And in consumer health, it's so easy to complicate.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many claims that one can make. There are so many, like we said, stakeholders within the ecosystem. And this is a great example because in this category, we have brands that have spoken to doctors, we've got brands that spoken to chemists, we've got brands that spoken to consumers directly. Speaking to consumers but keeping it simple has, I think, been at the heart of this.
Just to add, Praful, to that, I think for us on this brand, chemists have also been a very critical stakeholder. So we keep doing these outreach to chemists, telling them on which is the right ORS for them to be a part of this journey. And it's amazing when you actually talk to chemists as an individual and interact with them. They really open up and how important they feel on the service that they're providing to their consumers. Chemists will tell you, sir, I can't sell the wrong product to the consumer. It's great that you're telling me this is the right product. They love being part of your movement. Doctors, full respect for doctors. They are also, the moment you have this conversation with doctors, they say, absolutely, this is the right thing for me to talk to my consumers on. So the whole ecosystem comes around to helping you deliver when you're doing the right things, right? And the consumers are smart, Praful. Chemists are smart and doctors are the smartest. They know who is doing the right things and who is not, right? And hence for us as a company, when we are very clear on the fact that our starting point is just do what is right for the consumer, this whole community comes in and helps us.
And yeah, I would love to talk more about this part of it and each of these communities, the chemist community and the doctor community. The chemist first, because a lot of folks assume that the chemist is a very commercial animal and will sell what makes the most margins. And that's not true based on the success that you've had. So if you can give us more examples, talk about the conversations you've had with these chemists.
Sure. So, for us, we are a marketing, organization, right? So every conversation we have is starting with trying to understand the person on the other side. So when you talk to chemists, one of the most important things that they point out is that, I have a certain credibility with my consumers. It's important for me to give the right products to my consumers. That's one of the biggest driving factors for them. And you hear it across, right? Of course, everyone wants to make money in the business that they're doing, and chemists also do that, right? But the driving factor, that driving conversation that we have always had with chemists is, I have to give the right product for the right issue that the consumer walks in with, number one. Number two, I should also provide all the brands and access to brands to my consumers so that whenever they are trying to choose, I can help them choose. And C, I also want to provide all the information to my consumers to make the right choice, right? So I tell them, okay, you've come for this brand, this is the price for this brand, by the way, I have all of this available, please choose. And if you need help, I can give you facts around the products. And that's a fantastic role that chemists play today in the industry. And which is and which is why we keep having lots of these conversations with chemists as well. And same is true for our trade partners. Honestly, this whole margin thing, we have brands which offer all kinds of margins to chemists. We have never seen a difference in terms of how they approach the brand based on the margins. It's actually the quality of solution that you're giving to consumer which decides how much a chemist likes the brand, and that's what we have experienced as an organization. And on doctors, we don't do too much of doctor communication as Cipla Health, but we do go to lots of these doctor panels and lots of these organizations which bring doctors together, where we talk about the social cause in general. So we talk about why ORS is a great product. We talk about how what difference smoking cessation as a category can make to the consumers, etc., etc. We don't largely talk about the brand. And there, Praful, if your driving force is to make a real difference to your consumers, talking about the category also does the job. Brand honestly comes in second, and everyone understands the credibility of the brand when you're going the message first. So that's what we do on the doctors as well.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. And we can't talk about consumer healthcare marketing without talking about digital marketing. So again, how have you seen digital marketing in this space? How have you been using it more across the years and in consumer healthcare specifically?
Sure. Interesting, Praful. In fact, I have strong views on this. I've never understood this whole excitement around traditional marketing, digital marketing, etc., because for me, eventually it all starts and ends with the consumer, right? So what is the brand and what is the message you're trying to give to your consumer? Number one. Number two, for that consumer, which media are they seeking and having conversation and interaction with? So, certain class of men watching news in the evening, or certain class of women, certain profile of women interacting with Facebook, or certain youngsters interacting with Facebook. It depends on who you are speaking to, right? That is the starting point for us always. And then of course it's about what is the message you're trying to deliver. So for example, in a limited geography, for a broader profile, if you're trying to build a narrative, out of home is a great medium, right? If you're trying to drive continuous engagements with consumers in a conversational manner, social media is great. Digital social media is great. If you're trying to give a uni message to a larger swath of consumers, television is a great medium. And honestly, for us, that's where commerce also comes in very clearly, because building brands in consumer health is a difficult proposition, right? So you have to use your money very judiciously. So, one of my pushbacks to the marketing team is, you tell me what is the cheapest cost at which I can talk to the largest number of consumers, and B, in that medium, am I able to deliver my message? As long as these two are green, we go for that channel. So, I can talk about Revela, which is a skincare D2C brand that we have. Entire conversation is digital, right? And for example, when we talk about Astaberry, which is a brand that we have bought, which is a mass skincare brand, we are looking at television also as a medium apart from digital. And it's fascinating, Praful, when you talk about digital. I'll give you one of my experiences. So 15 years back, 16 years back, I used to go for these consumer home visits, and in Unilever, consumer home visits was all about spend at least 4 or 5 hours with the consumers, go see what the person is using, go to her bathroom, see what are the products kept, etc. Typically, you used to find maybe a face wash which was building up at that point in time, and maybe a moisturizer, a smaller bottle of moisturizer. That used to be a consumer's beauty regime. Same profile of consumers, you go today, you will at least find a cleanser, toner and moisturizer. If not, maybe a few more,
A night creams
and day creams, etc. Right? So at least 4 to 5 SKUs. So 2 SKUs have moved to 5 SKUs. When I now think of the consumer I used to talk to who was using 2 SKUs, and I used to ask her saying, which is the medium you interact with? She used to say, 12 to 3, when my husband has gone for work and my kids have gone to school, is when I watch television. Yeah, those kyunki saas bhi kabhi bahu thi days. So that was the primary medium that she was using to consume, and hence for any brand to speak with her, that was the time. When we used to ask her on digital, she used to say, I do emails on and off, but my son helps me do it. So he opens up my account and then I use it to send mails. Today, same profile of consumers, same age group. You speak with them on what medium you use. So she would talk about a few influencers that she's following. So she says, I'm talking to these 3 influencers to learn something on cooking side, and I follow this one influencer to understand what is the right regime for beauty. Same profile of consumers. And television, maybe I watch it for a couple of hours, but most of the time I'm on my mobile, right? So now step back to us as a marketer. This is the change in consumers' world, and of course hence our media channels and media vehicles have to evolve accordingly. So now of course the mix of digital hence goes up. The right time to speak with her in those hours is a mix of television plus digital. Earlier it was television. So that's the way we look at it. Digital marketing, when it is relevant, when that channel is relevant, comes in full force. But there are, for example, if you have to talk, of Nicotex, when we are talking to the larger population, it still is the lowest cost to reach medium for us. So we end up, the television I was saying. So television hence is a great medium when you have to talk to large number of people with a frequency of 2 or 3. It's a great medium, it's the lowest cost medium for you. So it's a mix and match, and it's fascinating how this landscape is evolving. Digital, newer of course aspects of digital coming into play. Television is also reinvigorating itself with multiple things, etc. So it's a continuous evolution, and we only keep figuring out saying, what is the message I want to give, what is the lowest possible cost at which I can give the message, and hence for my consumer during the time of the day, when are they interacting with which medium. So we put this match together to decide on where to invest.
That makes a lot of sense, and I loved how you got it out from the perspective of the changing consumer over the last decade or so, and one's seen that happen a lot. And in addition to that, in consumer healthcare marketing, because the budgets are limited, and it takes a lot to get consumers started.
Absolutely.
On a brand.
It's not for faint-hearted, Praful.
It's not.
Consumer health marketing is not for faint-hearted.
Absolutely, and that's why digital often plays a stronger role, because you can talk to a tighter group of consumers and take them through the journey, and therefore it can be more rewarding. Right. And then again, as the brand grows on something like Nicotex, how you then scale it to other more cost-effective media.
Absolutely. Just that, Praful, again, as I said, you have to be at it for some time. Don't expect the habits to change overnight. Typically in many other non-consumer health categories, there are a few categories where you can quickly pass the brand message. In consumer health, it takes time. So once you've decided the message, you have to be at it for some time for the message to translate. It doesn't come easily.
Absolutely, and patience is something that consumer healthcare marketing really teaches you. And we're sometimes working with hospital brands and clinic brands, and they look a lot at footfall. So they look a lot at performance marketing, and with performance marketing, marketeers are typically very impatient. And so we're having a lot of conversations about how it's still healthcare marketing, and you still need to be more patient. You cannot expect the patient to take a decision on a 60,000 rupee 3-month, 1-year treatment in a span of a day. And it's a big decision
for them, because it directly affects them, right? It's not a small decision for them. It really makes a difference to their life. So when you're making a decision which really impacts your life, you take time and effort, and you evaluate, and then you go for the product.
And you remodel your entire performance marketing journey. You're not trying to do it in a day. You're trying to do it in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks. You're trying to do it when the consumer is comfortable. So the consumer decides when they're ready to move on, and you service the entire funnel. And you don't offer appointments too early in the journey. You kind of support with a lot of content. I see a lot of similarities to what you've done on various categories out there. So kudos to you. I think it's kind of
it's my team, Praful. I think we have a fantastic team of marketers. Most or pretty much all our marketers are with FMCG background, because that mindset works best for this category, and kudos to them for sticking with it for so long and being at it, because the rewards and the fruits of labor, when they eventually come, they come slightly delayed, but when they come, they are very, very satisfying as a marketer. So kudos to them for having built such fantastic brands. So just to tell you, Praful, we now have 6 brands which are market leaders, and we have a good number of brands which are 100 crore plus. The business has gone up almost 10 times in the last 6 to 7 years, 10 times on revenue, and a very profitable business. So we are saying what we are building here is a profitable business, a sustainable growth, because it has to keep growing, and also a very responsible business. So what we say is that we will not sell a product here that we are not comfortable giving to our family to use, right? So first check for any product is, will I be willing to give it to my kid, to my partner, to my parents? If the answer is no anywhere, we don't sell that product. And that's the test of responsibility that we hold ourselves to, and which allows us to deliver this kind of growth, which is consistent, profitable, and responsible as well.
And I think the toughest piece in consumer healthcare marketing has been to build mass brands, and to do that for 6 brands being market leaders speaks a lot about what you and the team have done. So maybe it's a good time to talk a little bit more about the team that you've built out here. You're mentioning that the consumer perspective is something that's really useful. Good to kind of talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, so as I was saying, Praful, the first starting point for anyone on the marketing side is, do you understand your consumer? Yeah, are you spending enough time with your consumer? Do you have the consumer license in terms of number of hours you are spending with the consumer before you start to talk about the consumer? So we tell our marketers that you are representing your consumers here. Yeah, so every communication that we do, every promotion that we run in terms of trade promotions on the sales side, it has to go through the test of consumer. How would my consumer perceive this action from our end? And when you keep consumer at the center, you do the right things, right? Because the world is filled with creative marketers who have multiple thoughts, but it's important to keep your moorings around the consumer. And I think if you just ensure that, you will never go wrong. Number one. Number two, don't. So while of course you when you're trying to build a category, when you're trying to do category development, which we said is a patient, requires a lot of patience. You also need to make it easier for consumers to come into your category. So you might have to, make the path a little easier for them through the right pricing for the consumers, so that they can get into the category. But eventually they have to see benefit in the product. If your product is making a real difference to the consumer, consumers are smart. They see through the difference that this product is making to my life, and they see through hence the message, and they then adopt. Yeah, so if you be at it, the translation happens for the marketers.
What's the one warning you give your team before you bring them in, folks that haven't worked in the consumer healthcare category?
So be patient. That's one warning we give to our marketers. You have to be patient here. Number one. Number two, you have to live, breathe, and talk consumer. Very, very critical. And I think beyond that, it is the natural skills and the natural traits for any individual that they bring on table. And we have had fascinating set of people who have come in, who have really thought out of the box to help us build these categories. There are these individuals who came in and we said, how can we build the perfect consumer aesthetics around the product. On ORS, for example, they said we need flavors. R&D said no, flavors cannot be done. They said no, we need flavors if you have to provide the right aesthetics. And it was a 1-year project on trying to figure out how you can stay true to the WHO formulation while giving these fantastic flavors, etc., etc. So I think the brands are where they are because of these fantastic people we have had in the team, Praful.
And the last question for the day. What's the one tough question you ask your brand team which they hate to answer when you're working on a brand plan, of course?
Yeah, they don't hate to answer it, but yeah, they do. They are not very happy always. Is for any nice, flowery, creative that gets created, or these fantastic activities that get done, I ask them for what was the return of this, activity. So how do you? So what were you trying to do with this? And show me. Can you prove to me what is the change that this is all actually done? So this might be an activation done in a market. For example, the Kumbh Mela activation, right? Which costs, there is money and there is effort involved. What is it that you are trying to deliver? And at the end of the activity, please come and tell me and prove to me that it got delivered. You decide the KPIs. I will not decide the KPIs, but you decide the KPIs before you get into the activity. And when the activity ends, please come and tell me where are we on those KPIs. And it's not a very comfortable conversation because marketers inherently are creative. So, and this is like a little bit of a financial conversation. Some marketers don't like it, but I'm very, very clear about it. And in our, when we do this, we are very, very clear about return on the investment that we make on marketing, because we say that money is limited. It's a long haul. We are in this for long haul. So this limited money, we have to be maniacal about using it the right way. Because if we lose our path, within 2 to 3 years, one of us would stand up and say, maybe I would stand up and say, marketing is not working. So why are we doing it? Let's stop, right? So for our own good, and actually, Praful, if you ask me, it's not only consumer health. I think the world is moving towards, and world is seeking marketers who can really justify every penny that they're spending on marketing. And I think when I hear these loose comments around saying, no, marketing doesn't work, I go livid, because it's actually absolutely the wrong understanding on marketing. And it is, it is actually not having the right KPIs when you began the activity. It is your problem as a leader to say, I didn't have the right KPIs. And then I say after 2 to 3 years, no, marketing is not working on this brand, take away marketing. It is not like that. Get the KPIs right, get your media vehicles right, monitor them, track them, change course, evolve. Evolve every quarter. If you know a certain mix of media vehicle choices are not working, evolve to the right one, because marketing has to work. If you're getting the consumer inciting right, if you understand your consumer, and if your messaging in terms of execution is perfect, it has to work. There's
no two ways about
basic
it.
science. So yeah, and that's what we hold each other accountable for. In fact, marketing teams also come back and push me many times, saying that maybe this is not the right KPI. There is this conversation on saying, is this performance marketing or is this brand marketing, for example, on digital? And I tell them, no, let's see what is happening on performance marketing. But they say, no, but we are also trying to build the brand. So this is the budget for brand marketing. So we keep having a lot of those playful debates. Eventually, the objective is use money judiciously, make your money work, and make a real difference to the consumer. If you do all of this, you win as a marketer.
Thanks, Shivam. This has been a super conversation, and this has been my first interview that's ended with a question rather than a response. So thanks for this. I love the conversation. Hope we have many.
Absolutely. Thank you, Praful. Loved the conversation. And my best wishes to all the healthcare marketers. We make a real difference as healthcare marketers, and I think it's our social responsibility to be successful. Because when you're successful, you're adding goodness to the world around you. So the nature will come together to make you successful. Just do the right things. And hats off to all the successful healthcare marketers, because they're actually making a real difference. So best of luck to all the marketers who are watching this.
I hope this conversation inspires many more marketing folks to stick in healthcare for longer periods. Thanks, Shivam.